61 AD, the western edge of the Roman Empire. I'm Matthew Settle. Here a warrior queen rose in revolt. Her name was Boudica. She united the British tribes against Rome, sacking cities and spreading panic and destruction wherever she went.
O então governador Romano Paulinus reuniu 10.000 homens em desesperada tentativa de deter a rainha nesta estrada romana à via Watling. Esta batalha decidiria o destino britânico e testaria os limites das conquistas romanas. Hoje, com a tecnologia dos videogames, podemos visualizar como foi a batalha, o grande número de soldados, a formação das tropas, a luta e como a batalha foi vencida. Veja o que os generais gostariam de ver agora em batalhas decisivas. Batalhas decisivas. A Bretanha era uma próspera província romana no século I, rica em minerais e recursos naturais. Ela não se submetia com docilidade ao jugo romano. Ninguém menos do que Júlio César tentou conquistar essa terra um século antes e falhou. Roma só conseguiu invadir a Bretanha no ano 43 depois de Cristo. Mas levou muitos anos para pacificar as inúmeras tribos que habitavam a região. Mesmo com a terra conquistada, bolsões de resistência permaneceram e a Bretanha estava longe da tranquilidade.
This is a place where military reputations full stop, can be won or lost. One has to remember that Britain is a late entry to the empire. Here fortunes, military and financial, can be made.
Na Bretanha, os romanos comandavam uma colcha de retalhos de reinos tribais. Ao norte, os brigantes. Ao sul, os belgas e os reguenenses. E a leste, os icenos. As tribos britânicas moravam em aldeias como esta, reconstruída no sul da Inglaterra.
Boudica was the widow of Prasutagus, a chief of the Iceni. He saw that security depended on a peaceful relationship with the Romans. Since Prasutagus didn't have a son when he died, he left his lands to be jointly controlled by his wife Boudica and the Roman Emperor Nero.
And so we have a situation where Prasutagus actually makes the Emperor Nero his heir, or part heir. And the idea, I think, behind what Prasutagus is doing is to ensure a favourable, friendly relationship between Rome and the Icenian.
But Rome wasn't deterred. The Roman Emperor Nero had nothing but contempt for the wife and daughters left behind by Prasutagus.
They came in, they took over, and when she objected, as naturally she did do, she was flogged and the girls were raped.
Mas Roma subestimou Boudica. Ela e as filhas conseguiram escapar e começaram a levantar um exército. O brutal tratamento que receberam dos romanos seria vingado. A notícia do acontecido logo se espalhou. A tribo dos icenos, onde nasceu Boudica, se uniu aos vizinhos trinovantes para combater Roma. Historiadores antigos dizem que ela reuniu 100.000 homens. Como todas as mulheres icenas, Boudica não temia o combate.
I suppose today she has special significance because she was, after all, a woman. Celtic society were rather big on women. Roman society was not like that at all.
Roman writers make a lot of the fact that this rebellion is led by a woman. The Romans emphasise this very strongly in their accounts, and they regard Boudica as this very, very strange, sinister figure. Something rather unnatural, really.
Os icenos usavam grande variedade de armas, lanças, espadas e machados. Muitos espalhavam um corante azul pelo rosto e, às vezes, pintavam o corpo todo.
We know that the Celtic warriors traditionally fought without clothes on at all. I don't think that was necessarily true at this period. I expect they will have had trousers, and you also know they had great big moustaches. And one Roman writer, a man called Diodorus Siculus, says that when the Celtic warriors drank their soup, these moustaches acted as a sort of filter.
Boudica já tinha um exército de mais de 30 mil homens e mulheres quando atacou a cidade de Camulodon e a destruiu inteiramente.
We are given details of the deaths of those people who were put to the sword and tortured by the rebels. The Roman historians talk about them being tortured, impaled on sharpened stakes, all sorts of really horrible details.
Os romanos foram pegos de surpresa. Rapidamente reuniram um pequeno exército que foi, por estar mal armado, rapidamente dizimado.
We're dealing with southern England, we're dealing with, if you like, the soft underbelly of the emergent Roman territory. It's an area which has less troops in at this particular moment in time.
Roma tinha de enfrentar uma guerra total. A 9ª Legião, com cerca de 4 mil homens conduzidos por cereales, foi enviada à luta. A 9ª Legião era uma tropa de choque, mas os bretões a arrasaram de tal maneira que Cereales teve de fugir para a Gália a fim de se salvar.
Cerealis was rash, he advanced without scouts, he was caught with his pants down.
O governador da Bretanha, Suetônios Paulinus, se deu conta do problema. Ele voltava de uma guerra na ilha de Anglesey e tinha de levar sua 14ª Legião a mais de 300 quilômetros para lutar na própria área dos rebeldes.
In an ideal world, he'd get more troops together before confronting her. So there's a little bit of manoeuvring that has to go on. First, troops need to be called in. He needs to get to somewhere where he can operate against Boudica.
Paulinus correu a Londinium, hoje Londres. Ele tinha poucos homens à disposição e não queria acabar como Cereales, entrando na luta só para ser derrotado. Ele precisava de tempo para construir um exército e decidiu o impensável: abandonar Londres.
The people of London begged him for help, but Paulinus ignored their pleas and left them to the mercy of the Britons. He needed time to raise up an army and devise a battle plan. His 14th Legion were all experienced veterans, but even counting their auxiliaries, they numbered only 6,000 men.
As tropas de Boudica irromperam em Londres e massacraram tanto romanos quanto civis e bretões. Depois de um longo dia de luta, a cidade foi saqueada.
The Boudica rebellion was very serious. It was bad news for Rome. And quite apart from anything else, 80,000 people who were friendly to Rome, and including Romans themselves, were massacred by the rebels right at the beginning of the revolt. So it was really bad news, and there was even a possibility that the Romans might have been thrown out of Britain, and that would have been a disaster for Roman prestige.
In one day, Boudica had destroyed the center of Roman influence in Britain. Now the Romans had to stop her, or they would lose Britain altogether.
O general romano Paulinus ordenou que seu exército marchasse para leste e, enquanto se movia, Boudica saqueou Verulamium. Nada parecia deter a Rainha Guerreira. Agora ela se dirigia para o norte pela principal estrada romana, a Via Watling.
Boudica moves pretty swiftly, almost along the lines of Roman communication. The roads that had been an instrument of Roman domination become something that actually helps her accelerate through this young province.
Paulinus havia conseguido mais tropas, inclusive centenas de cavaleiros, mas seus 10 mil homens ainda eram poucos e estavam cansados da longa marcha.
Paulinus expected the 2nd Legion to come to his aid, but the general in charge, Postumius, thought this was a suicide mission and refused.
It may be that he was just too frightened. He realized that the crunch had come, and he perhaps thought that the Boudica's warriors would totally overwhelm Paulinus, and he wasn't going to be caught in that disaster too.
O temor de Póstumios tinha fundamento. Os romanos enfrentaram pelo menos 30 mil bretões, bem abastecidos e apoiados por uma enorme caravana de carroças. Estava pronto o cenário para um combate épico, onde Paulinus enfrentaria as hordas vitoriosas de Boudica. Os romanos foram ao seu encontro marchando pela Via Watling. Essa era a maior estrada romana para o norte da Bretanha. A construção de estradas era uma parte vital da ocupação romana, porque as tropas podiam se mover rapidamente por elas.
Paulinus was an experienced commander. He knew he had to fight Boudica's forces on a battlefield that canceled out her greatest strength, her superior numbers. So he decided to fight here, just south of Watling Street, 100 miles north of London.
He had one advantage, and one big advantage, and that is he could choose the actual battle site. He knew that he would be totally outnumbered by the rebels, who at this stage are supposed to have numbered something between a quarter and a third of a million men. I mean, a huge, huge force.
Paulinus não queria que Boudica tivesse espaço para manobras. Ele escolheu um local com bosques dos dois lados. O campo era largo em uma das pontas e se estreitava na outra. Paulinus posicionou seu exército no ponto mais estreito, enquanto Boudica alinhou suas tropas à frente, onde o campo se abria. O solo se elevava perto dos bosques, o que protegia os flancos dos romanos.
To Boudica and her British warriors, it must have looked like easy pickings. Here were the Romans outnumbered at least 3-1, deliberately drawing themselves up in a place that offered no retreat. The Britons could simply press in and hack away till the last legionary fell.
The Romans, after all, seem to be on the back foot. They've been hit badly. 3 towns have been pulverized. The 9th Legion mauled in an ambush.
As forças de Boudica confiavam tanto na vitória que trouxeram mulheres e crianças para verem a ação desde a caravana de carroças.
They were on the up. They had been tremendously successful. This was like, you know, a tremendous event which everybody was supporting. The whole family was there and to cheer on the victors as they saw it.
O historiador romano Tácitus, ao escrever 50 anos depois, relatou que os dois comandantes exortaram suas tropas com ódio. Ele escreveu que antes da batalha, Paulinus disse: esmaguem o levante selvagem, os gritos e urros dos bárbaros sem disciplina. Naquelas hordas há mais mulheres do que homens. Enquanto isso, Boudica falava às suas tropas: nada é sagrado à arrogância e orgulho dos romanos. Todos podem ser violentados, os velhos são açoitados e as virgens são defloradas.
This would be the decisive battle of the campaign. Either Rome would win, or Boudica would get her revenge and take back Britain.
Os bretões deram o primeiro passo. Com grande estrondo, a horda tomou de armas e atacou os romanos. A primeira batalha da Bretanha havia começado. Desta vez, os romanos estavam prevenidos e não falhariam como a 9ª Legião. Agora fariam o que sabiam fazer: controlar seus nervos, ser disciplinados e seguir sua tática à risca. Quando os bretões estavam a pouco mais de 30 metros, os legionários arremessaram uma saraivada de lanças. Essas lanças leves eram especiais para interromper um ataque de infantaria ou de cavalaria. As pontas de metal perfuravam escudos e abatiam as primeiras filas inimigas. O objetivo era matar ou deter o adversário. Como muitos guerreiros bretões usavam poucas armas e estavam nus, a chuva de lanças foi devastadora. Cada legionário romano levava 2 dessas lanças e uma nova saraivada transformou o ataque bretão em um grande massacre. Mas eles continuaram. Até agora, haviam derrotado todos os exércitos romanos e destruído suas maiores cidades. Estavam determinados a vencer essa batalha final. Onda após onda, os guerreiros bretões atacaram. Boudica assistia a tudo desde sua biga e viu que esta força romana era diferente da 9ª Legião que ela esmagara naquele mesmo ano.
It's an army that's used to fighting, very experienced and under a very capable commander.
Os romanos escolheram um bom local para a batalha e estavam bem plantados. A técnica bretã da intimidação não estava funcionando contra este exército romano. O exército de Boudica era muito maior, mas estava sendo afunilado na parte estreita do campo e não conseguia cercar os romanos.
All of the evidence appears to be that she was an extremely capable woman, a fighter, and she would have been in the battle and probably would have been in the thick of things.
A disciplina das legiões logo deteve o ataque bretão. Agora, Paulinus ordenou que as tropas romanas avançassem.
Fairly familiar Roman shock tactics. You lead with the javelin, and then, as the enemy is approaching you, slowed down almost to a walk, you run straight into them.
Ao mesmo tempo, a cavalaria romana atacou, lançando o caos nas fileiras bretãs.
The Britons had much longer swords, and they would have really needed space to use these to effect. They had absolutely fantastic courage, but really they couldn't deploy, they couldn't utilize their courage, they couldn't utilize the fighting tactics for which they were best suited. Everything was on the side of the Romans.
Na pressão da batalha e sem uma liderança adequada, muitos bretões decidiram correr para salvar a própria vida. Agora sua arrogância se voltava contra eles. A caravana de carroças bloqueava o caminho. E assim os bretões haviam cortado sua própria retirada. Agora, as mulheres e crianças, tão confiantes na vitória, se viram em meio ao massacre. Os homens correram em seu auxílio, mas logo viram que os espaços entre as carroças eram gargalos. Não havia como escapar. Sem nenhuma ordem na batalha, os bretões agora estavam sendo abatidos.
The Roman legionary fought with the gladius, the short stabbing sword, and stab upwards alongside the shield with the right hand into the stomach area of the enemy.
Bloodlust drove the Romans on. They'd come to the battlefield tired and outnumbered. Now their enemy was cornered and confused. The Romans showed no mercy.
Tacitus says that they just saw red. It was a sort of battle haze. And that having pushed the British warriors back onto their own wagon line, that they just cut down the draft animals, cut down the women and children, spared absolutely none.
Os romanos mataram combatentes e não combatentes. Os bretões foram apanhados entre o aço romano e sua própria barricada de carroças, um semicírculo onde instalaram as famílias para que vissem sua vitória. Agora todos estavam mortos aos pés dos romanos. O número de mortos, sem dúvida exagerado a favor de Roma, reflete a incrível carnificina daquele dia. Disseram que houve somente 400 romanos mortos contra 80.000 bretões.
I think it is likely that it was so. It would be very rash to say that 80,000 is anything like an accurate number, but I think it will have run into thousands. And as for the Roman losses, I think that 400 is probably the number of people who actually perished and fell on the battlefield.
Qualquer que seja o número, Roma venceu a batalha decisiva. Quando Postumius, que temera ajudar Paulinus, soube da vitória, ficou arrasado pela vergonha e se suicidou.
Boudica raced from the battlefield. Capture would have meant being dragged back to Rome in chains, torture, then execution. The Romans followed in hot pursuit. But before they could reach her, Boudica took poison and died.
There are two stories about the fate of Boudica. One is that she fell ill and died. The other is that she took poison. The simple answer is we don't know. There is an urban myth that she is buried under platform 9 at King's Cross railway station in London, but there's absolutely no evidence to support that story.
Boudica's death marks the end of effective resistance to Roman rule by the Britons. Though pockets of revolt remained, it was clear the Britons had been conquered by Rome and would remain under Roman rule for nearly 400 years.
Rome hit them very, very hard. Boudica's actual legacy for Roman Britain really was Britain really worth all this? But the answer came back quite quickly thereafter, yes it was.
Hoje há uma estátua de Boudica, a rainha guerreira, às margens do Tâmisa.
The woman who fought against the might of Rome remains an enduring symbol of defiance and a champion for her nation.